calling to order the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting on Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. It is now 6:33 p.m. Let me go ahead and start off with the silent meditation and pledge. All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Madam Manager, could you please call the roll?
Yes, good evening. Chairperson, Councilperson Martin. Present.
Oh, present, sorry.
Okay, Vice Chairperson, Councilperson Perella is not here yet. Member Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Here. Member Vice Mayor Erbaum.
Present.
Member Mayor Nickerson.
Here.
Also present for the record is Village Manager Christia Alou. Madam Chair Martin, you have a quorum.
Awesome. I'm so not accustomed to you calling the roll, but it sounded great. Let's move on to approval of the agenda. Let's take a look at the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve it as it is presented below? A second?
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. Now this brings us to the first good and welfare of the evening. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to come up and say something about the agenda items, now is your opportunity to do so. There will also be another good and welfare portion toward the end, but is there anyone who would like to speak? All right, hearing none, I will go ahead and move on to our first agenda item, which is the green space presentation by Councilman Erbaum. So I will give you the floor, Councilman Erbaum, to tell us more about this item.
Yes, so at the Little River cleanup, I met a resident, Suzanne Jewell, and talking about some experience she had, expertise in setting up like a mindfulness space, like an interactive activity space for people to use in a green space. So we were talking a little bit, and it sounded like it was a very interesting model, as well as something that could fit in one of our existing pocket parks. So without further ado, I would ask Ms. Jewell to come up and present. So.
And while I'm on the microphone, mask on or not?
On, preferably.
Okay. So I'm going to actually start first with a little 1 minute and 30-second video, just to give you a little idea of what it is, and then I'll jump into the presentation itself.
So you can just go ahead and click play.
Okay.
And then just double click
Go
on
ahead,
this
hit
window.
play. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Can you stay with me
Yeah,
to get the other up?
Yeah, let me
Okay.
grab the.
Oh, it didn't. Sorry, gonna take it from the top. There we go. So let me run your tech here because I'm not a PC person. Thank goodness you're here. I'm a Mac person.
Let me just go ahead and scroll to the
Awesome, beautiful. And does this come full screen too, or does it stay small like that? That's cool.
Yeah.
That's big enough. Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Suzanne Jewell, and I'm honored to have the opportunity as a community member and neighbor here, a vecina, as we say, somos vecinos, to be able to share this project with you today. It's called the Mindful Pocket Park Project, and it's something that came to me as Councilman shared that we actually are at a very interesting time right now where human resilience and the topic of urban wellness is really calling all of us to pay attention. This is not an entertainment park. This is not a basketball court. This is a park with a purpose. Now, and I don't have to probably tell any of you this, is a really new time. As we move through COVID, we can choose at the individual and collective level to grow more towards social, racial, and earth equity. Our communities and individuals, at least those I'm working with, which include Miami-Dade College, Nova Southeastern University, Babson College's Women Innovating Now laboratory, and even your new neighbor, Pelican Harbor. I've trained them in mindfulness. I'm finding out that many of these are seeking wellness and healing as a key priority both at work as well as at home. And the question is why? And the answer is stress and overwhelm. Since October, even though we are moving through a new phase of what's occurring in this not quite done yet with COVID time, the levels of anxiety and depression have hit an all-time high. I don't know if any of you saw the news last week, which was that the Jackson Behavioral Health intake for children experiencing anxiety and depression required them to go out of state to get enough support for kids who were actually experiencing issues and ending up in the hospital. Self-harm thoughts are part of what that actually manifests as. Underneath all of that, at the physiological level, what you see in front of you is the stress hormone. It's called cortisol. And you can note all of the impacts here without me going through all of it, what it is that it does to the human physiological system, and especially to a lot of communities that if you get this at too young of an age and you don't disrupt the cortisol, this is one of the reasons why in Black and brown communities, COVID was such a big impact, because the stressors of cortisol may have occurred even before what it is that happened with COVID. So what is one of the things that I'm bringing before you now is a new piece of University of Michigan research that shows that 20 minutes in nature reduces your cortisol. This is also, if the city or the village is tracking any of this, a United Nations goal, one of the SDGs. It's the number 3 goal of good health and well-being. Your brain on nature actually has very large research behind it. To the right, you'll see over 10,000 pieces of information that have been done on a medical research level through mindfulness and what it is that happens when you actually spend time in nature. And what this park would actually do is hit and tick a few boxes that seem to be on everyone's priority right now. Climate resilience in terms of tree canopy. Nature-based, because it's nature. Equity-focused, because here is another really interesting thing from my own research. I have gone and traveled the communities where the parks are in our environment, and I've found out that parks in economically disadvantaged parts of this city are less welcoming to people than they are literally on the signage in the parks that are in more privileged areas, and I've got photographic proof to show that. This nature-based solution, I believe, offers us an opportunity to move beyond the conversation and resilience that isn't just roads, isn't just buildings, isn't just pumps, and isn't just fixing our septic tank problem. It addresses the fact that 1.3 million people live in this area, and we're not teaching resilience to people. And it's something you can actually learn. I'm Suzanne Jewell. Just to give you a little bit of a background on who I am, I'm a former global TV executive. I moved down to this community 26 years ago. I actually experienced burnout while I was living in Miami, working for the Gates Foundation in Ethiopia on a public health project, and my mother was dying of cancer up in Michigan. I did that as my commute, and when she passed, I hit that proverbial wall, And mindfulness and nature are what brought me back to wholeness. And now I have the very good fortune to be one of your neighbors. I reside down the Little River in probably the only living, working boathouse on the river, except for on the farmhouse. I reside at the Open Awareness Buddhist Center, and I actually am in the little boathouse at the back. So I literally live on the river. My background beyond what I did on the global level includes as the First World Happiness Summit that was launched here several years ago as the Chief Mindfulness Officer. And I work in the community. For example, on Inside South Florida TV, I am the person who does the little mini mindful moments, 5 minutes or less on air. So this is now what I do for a living. What I did before is no more. What we're talking about from a solution standpoint fits into the 20-minute model of that research. So take a look at this and just take a walk with me for a moment. Imagine if you went into a circle and outside of where you see those cushions and those chairs, there was a 10-minute walking practice. And in that practice, you paid attention with your senses. And what happens when you actually pay attention to sight and smell and sound and touch and taste is your whole cortisol in your nervous system come to the present moment. So those 5 senses would be the outside circle of the park. There would be a sight garden, name 5 things you can see. There would be a sound garden, name 4 things you can hear. There would be a smell garden, name 3 things you can smell. There would be a touch and a taste garden, and that would take 10 minutes of the 20-minute time, because I'm kind of coercing you to stay in the park with that mindful purpose. And then when you're done with that, you would actually go to the center of the circle that you see in front of you, and you would be offered a guided meditation of either mindfulness practice for breath or emotional issues that you could use that are called Unpack the Backpack. When you name your emotions, you actually calm how much they are carrying you away. And after that is done, you would have spent 20 minutes without realizing it in the park practicing mindfulness. What you would do at the front and at the end is you would actually quickly check in, and on a scale of 1 to 10, what's my level of calm? What's my level of anxiety? And what's 1 or 2 words that describe the state of my mind? The hope is the following. You do that at the beginning and your anxiety is at a 9, and when you're done, it offers it back to you and says, would you like to change that number? You say you were overwhelmed, and at the end it'll say, is there any other word you'd like to choose? Maybe you say, I'm more calm. And your calm, you would maybe hopefully go from only a 2 up to a 9. The point of it is when you come back with regular practice to the park 2 or 3 times, and you use the app, you would actually be teaching yourself self-awareness. And you'd finally recognize that when your body and your mind and your spirit go into the park a couple of times, you've calmed down your nervous system. I see for what it is possible here a very resilient, thriving vision. I think that what's possible here is strengthening human resilience in a way that I've had this conversation that very day that we met with the Chief Resilience Officer at Miami-Dade County, and they're not even talking about this conversation about the resilience of the human being. I see this, however, as a commitment to lead on the innovative edge of that for what's happening here in El Portal. With the fact that you've got the seabird station coming, you've got such a footprint already with the bird sanctuary and with the sacredness of the Tequesta Indian Mound, it seems to really fit into what your positioning is in the community quite well. I also think it's really important that you could lead in something that I've coined as a term, green space equity. I don't really know anyone out there who's talking about it, and it's my mission to choose to want to move forward on that. This is right now the group of people who I've spoken with in very informal ways, and it includes the National Alliance of Mental Illness for Miami-Dade County, the Urban Paradise Guild, the Community Reinvestment Alliance of South Florida. We have the executive director here. He's in attendance right now. And we have had conversations with the Miami-Dade County Office of Civic Partners and Philanthropy, and they are very, very supportive of us trying to be able to find the right place for this to live. And I know that might be nice because I know that our community is also part of the Climate Action Plan in terms of Ground Zero. So what I'm trying to suggest here today, and thank you for all of the time, is that this might be an opportunity for us to really lead on the cutting edge of human resilience, climate change, and green space equity for the solution of urban wellness. So thank you. That's my presentation.
Ms. Jewell, if I could, just a couple of questions.
Yes, I didn't know if I was supposed to take questions, so
Yeah.
thank you. I
Well,
appreciate that.
Yeah, so I might ask you some questions I already know the answer to, but for the benefit of those who this is the first exposure to this, my first question is there a cost or a fee for the app?
The app would not have a cost or a fee to it. My vision is that we would make the app accessible to people so that they just give us some level of information to be able to track it for their purposes. So let's say I've gone in 1, 2, or 3 times, I can see what I've tracked in terms of my improvement.
Right.
I don't see there being any fee for the app, and I don't see there being any privacy issues other than that we would like to know the data of what your emotions are, but not necessarily who you are.
Okay, and then in that I would certainly suggest that you make the app available to older operating systems so that it wouldn't then become exclusionary to people who only have the most up-to-date technology.
Brilliant suggestion.
That would be this only suggestion on that. The other question I have is, so in the images there, these spaces are very nicely landscaped, and so you spent time in the nature trail in the River Estates Park there by the canal. So as this would be your project, what do you see in terms of a need for what degree of landscaping would be required, disruption or otherwise alteration to the existing park?
So my thought on that front would be one of the folks I have listed here as a partner is the Urban Paradise Guild. I don't know if any of you are familiar with UPG. They do a lot of work creating butterfly corridors in already existing Miami-Dade County parks. They're very and much more conversant. I'm a great gardener, but I'm not necessarily a landscape designer. They're very focused on native habitat and also being able to create it as naturally as they can with what's there. So I really believe that the most focused level of landscaping that would be required is for us to figure out how to create what those little stations are. Name 5 things that you see, 4 things you hear. Like where could we create those little pockets on the trail, for example? If there were any, I'll give you my big wish. If there was any chance that Horace Mann would be willing to give us a little piece of land next to the trail. Okay, well, gotta always dream. It's what Martin Luther King said. You gotta have a dream, right? You gotta have a dream, baby. So my thought had been that if that were possible, in conjunction with their students learning some of what might be the idea of actually landscaping and then also some urban gardening, there could be dual benefits around all of that. So if that's not gonna happen, then
Yeah, and excuse me, and it's just because we don't hold a deed to that park.
Get it.
So we
Yeah.
cannot expand. That was the
Yeah.
original plan. It's been on the works and in the talks for years, I guess.
Got it.
But we just found out that that park, it's not deeded to El Portal. So we don't have, it's just a transportation sort of like right-of-way space for Miami-Dade Transit.
Okay.
So it doesn't belong to El Portal.
Well, here's
We
the-
just got the permit to beautify it.
Got it.
But exactly, we cannot, for
Well,
that
here would be
reason.
my response to that, Luis, as a former mayor's daughter from Grand Rapids, Michigan. No is the first step to getting a yes. And I'm going to tell you that one of the first things I'd do is I'd call the mayor of Dade County's Office of Civic Philanthropy Partnerships, and I'd say, the park's needing to be built, and there's green space, and nobody's using it to transit trucks on. So could we have a conversation?
There you go. Well,
And
yeah.
if we're able to do that in collaboration, you guys would give me a lot more heft than I have on my own,
Cool.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Thank you so much for the presentation. You continue to mention we will create the app. Who's the we, and is the app already created? Or-
No, the app's not already created.
Okay, so
And-
who would fund the creation of the app?
So part of what I'm looking to do is create enough partnerships where there may be some funds in one pocket. I've also already gone out and applied for some grants. I'm looking to create partnerships.
Okay,
I'm
so-
not
so
looking to
this is in the
self-fund
early
this.
stage. This
Yes,
is in
it's
the
very early stage. Yes.
And I suppose I'm looking for the ask. The ask would be to have El Portal as a partner and
I would
possibly
love-
a
yes.
financial contributor.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
creating the app.
Yes.
Okay. I
And
just
the app,
wanna-
by the way, will be the least of the budgetary items. The app won't be as expensive as probably building the landscaping.
Okay.
You can build an app nowadays for not that much money.
Okay, how
Yeah.
much is not that much?
About $10,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds accurate.
Yeah, that's it's you can buy 2 trees for that, if they're big trees, but the app is probably not going to be the largest part of the expense.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I'll turn it over to Councilman Erbaum. I don't know if there's an action item you want to come from
No,
this or a motion.
not necessarily an action item, just to, this seems like something unique, something that could benefit every individual in the village. And I personally agree with the assessment that, I think these mental health issues obviously were very significant before COVID and now exacerbated. And so I think this would be a great direction to head in terms of having this available to residents in the village. So not necessarily an action item, but perhaps we visit this again, maybe in a couple of months, 2 to 4 months, to find out, if any more formulated plan from our end has developed in terms of what we're going to be doing with our green spaces, if any more development has come from her end on the development of this. So
I think that sounds great. And mindfulness is definitely an effective way to combat anxiety. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time out today. And thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
really appreciate it.
You have a great one.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Awesome. And now we're going to move on to item number letter number F2, 8990 North Miami Avenue, site plan review for new residents. If I can have Camila come up and the applicant as well. The applicant should state their name and address for the record, please. I think that might be. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, good evening. I'm
Hold on one
here.
second.
Madam Chair, we need to swear the applicant in.
For sure.
Raise your right hand and swear in.
For sure. We'll swear you in and also name and address for the record.
Name and address for the record also.
Please.
Okay, Sheila Lorenzo, 1500 Southwest 17th Street.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think I'll go ahead with Camila, just giving the staff report on this item.
Certainly. Good evening, committee members. This application is for site plan review and approval of the construction of a new residence pursuant to section 1757 of the Code of Ordinances requires village council approval. The staff recommendation for this application pursuant of the section 1753 requirements and procedures for site plan review. Section A, the applicant shows good cause for compliance with the land use regulations and the development standards of this chapter and of chapter 24. The grant of the site plan approval as presented is in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the comprehensive plan, as the proposed development architecture is compatible with the existing residential architectural character within the village of El Portal. Therefore, approval with conditions is recommended for this new construction of a new residence. I apologize, that's a typo. It should say new residence, subject to the following conditions. The construction of the proposed project shall be in conformance with the submittal package dated April 22nd, 2021, and subsequent revisions. All representations proffered by the applicant as part of the review of the application are public hearings. All comments made as part of the review application are public hearings, and all comments made by staff reviewers and submitted to the applicant to be addressed prior to the building permit.
All right. Would you like to say anything on
No,
that?
I mean, I believe she's mentioned everything. I'm here on behalf of the Rosario Montero, which are the architects and engineers, and we want to let you guys know that we're very excited, to be building, and we're trying to do as much as we can to comply with the regulations and with the design character of the area, so that we contribute rather than deduct from the great El Portal.
That sounds good. I like that. I like the great El Portal. I'll go ahead and open it up
Thanks.
to the public, and then after that, I'll bring it back to the council members to have a discussion. All right. Huh? Yeah. Does anyone from the audience, no, we don't have any Zoom members, have anything to say about item number F2? Now would be the time to approach the podium. All right, I'll go ahead and close it up to, close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Does anyone on the council have anything to say about item number F2? Yes. Letter number F2. Go ahead, Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward.
You all have to excuse me, I'm dealing with a sciatic nerve that's killing me. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the applicant. You're brave. I read your plan. You're very brave. I have a couple of questions, Madam Chair.
Feel free.
Have items 1 through 8D been completed? And if not, why are we here with approval with conditions? What is that? This is 4 months now. If I had been 4 months trying to do what she's trying to do, I'd kind of be frustrated right now. Why are we here if all conditions aren't already met?
The conditions are a protocol just to ensure that they're standard. I mean, just to ensure that the construction, the eventual construction, when they submit for a building permit, is consistent with what is approved here. So it is only to point out that when the drawings are submitted for the building permit is constructed, then nothing has changed from what is approved by the council committee and then the council in these meetings. So it's not anything that is not complying with the zoning requirements or the any standard required by the comprehensive plan, but rather to ensure that it is constructed as is presented in these meetings.
So you all haven't seen anything?
Everything has been submitted and reviewed, yes.
Approval with conditions is recommended for this new construction. The conditions is the applicant's submittal package, subsequent revisions. So you've had subsequent revisions. I can't do that. I just got this. I can't study that just getting it right now. So I don't know if these A through D are
Right.
already accomplished. That's why I'm asking a very simple
Yes.
question. Has A through D been accomplished?
They have been accomplished.
They have been accomplished?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the ones that have been submitted prior, but eventually, if there are revisions, the conditions state that,
They had to comply with what's already
What's on
submitted.
yes,
Okay.
and if there are any comments proffered during this meeting, that they will make revisions based on the comments.
On behalf of the
Something.
resident, already 4
Yeah.
months has passed, and yet we don't know. When people come, I'm her now, I'm gonna be you. I'm 4 months into this process. When I come here to the council, I want everything to be already set and done. I want everything to already, I don't wanna guess that it's right or it's wrong, because right now it's giving me a little questions about why are we here if A through D have not been, seems like there would have been a paragraph below that that says council, committee members, A through D, as far as we can see, has been accomplished.
Ma'am, A through D have been accomplished. I believe that what she's trying to say is that they are asking for, approval as long as we don't change A through D, which we won't be able to do because it's already been approved
Is that
and
correct?
seen by zoning.
Okay, if that's correct.
That is what the conditions are there to prevent
Correct.
any changes from what the committee and the council approves in these meetings.
Okay.
Correct. It's preventing us from making any changes further on.
But you
And-
see my point, right?
Yes, of
Yeah, we
course,
understand.
Of course,
I
we
need
can
another
add language.
paragraph.
Yeah,
on
no, we
that.
understand
Or
completely.
if there are changes that they are based on the comments proffered, It's just covering.
Okay. Mayor, I
Um,
think this is my 5th meeting. Could be my 4th, but it seems like closure's not there. And I see this all the time. If this, where it is, then that should be another paragraph says, having done 1 through AD, the applicant recognizes that they are under compliance to not remove what has been approved. Something to that
Absolutely.
effect. So this closes the sentence. All right.
Correct.
And I'm not doing this just for you. I saw it before, and I'm thinking, why isn't there closure on this? This
No,
is giving
we
me
understand. It was
confusion.
prefaced a little bit
Yes,
incorrectly.
I think that's definitely a reasonable request, and I understand where you're coming from with that. Does anyone else
Yes,
have a
I do
comment?
have a question.
Okay,
To
Councilman Farrella.
Camila. Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Camila, when you're saying it's comparable to the architectural or harmonious with the architectural of the rest of the, to me, this box over here it's not comparable to anything, especially in that corridor, North Miami Avenue, there's nothing like it, anywhere from 85th all the way to 107th. So it will be the only kind of, like modern structure,
Right.
boxy, nothing that says El Portal, Miami Shores, or none of that effect. I mean,
It is a new style.
it's very cold.
It introduces a new style. It is a modern style. However,
Right.
the scale and proportion of the elements in the design are consistent with what the design guidelines,
Required, or.
well, they don't require, but suggest
yeah,
or
suggest,
recommend.
Right,
But I see, you certainly have a point. There aren't, the only modern homes actually have been requested or have been recent applications.
right. And they're between the streets and houses, so it kind of like, but this is like right in okay, okay.
Yes,
And I do have a question for the applicant. So you guys bought the 2 lots, right? So this is going in one of the lots, right there?
Yes, actually, I work with the architect, so I'm on the architecture side, but yes, I'm representing the applicant, but you're correct there.
Right. And so, what are they planning to do with the other side? Same design, same house?
I believe it's just gonna be green for now, like nothing has been
But it's
brought up to
divided in
us.
2, right?
Nothing
It's
brought
divided
up to
in
us.
2, is the same, kind of the same size as where this house is
I
going?
believe so, but
Right.
this is the only portion that has been brought up to us to this point.
Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
those are my questions. Thank
Does
you.
anyone else have a
Thank you.
question for
Madam
the
Chair.
applicant?
A comment, no more questions.
All right. Councilwoman Lightfoot
I
Ward.
read somewhere in the code somewhere, the mayor probably can tell me best. Are we changing the nature of the village? This will be the third one that we've seen that has a boxy look. Are we changing the village? I just need to know, because if we are, that's not what the residents are thinking. The residents are thinking that we're going to always remain a village,
Right.
not something turned over looking like Carl Gables. And I
Cookie
love
cutter
Carl
houses.
Gables.
No,
Don't
yeah,
do
right.
that to me. I love Carl Gables, but this is Village of El Portal. Are we changing the village? That the new construction, Madam Chair, that's coming to this committee is boxy and looking upscale as opposed to traditional and the feel of a park? You know, El Portal is a big park with houses in it. And these kinds of things coming to us, if that's what we're doing, we need to say it to the village. Because I'm saying to villagers, that's not what we're going to do. And so that's all we're seeing. And what happened to the gingerbread
Right.
perception of El Portal?
Right, that's what I see with this. And
This
I-
is like the
I-
third one.
And I remember the one in the corner here, Northeast Third, and
Yes.
on 88, it took them almost a year for them to actually come back with the design that was kind of like, it's still modern, but it has some sort of charm to the facade of the house. This is cold, plain. I particularly don't like it. Like I said, I could have bought anywhere else in Miami. But we bought in a Portal because we
It's a park.
wanted that feel of, being a park and being unique and charming and,
Fairy
so,
tale.
and I feel like, with these new constructions, that everything is square, no gable, no awnings, no nothing. It's like, what are we doing here?
No, I completely get the comments. For me, my line is to temper my decision based on personal taste, right? So
Right.
these are people that have purchased their homes, and they do have a right to, I suppose, alter those homes in a way that they see fit. So for me, the professionals look at the code, see what's in the code, and then give a recommendation based on windows and locations and all of those other things, setbacks, the technicalities. And if those fall in line, I'm inclined to follow with the staff's recommendation and not necessarily impart my personal taste too
Right.
heavily onto an individual property owner. And I think that's how we also state clear, in the clear legally as well. So that's my take on it. Does anyone else have a comment on that? Councilmember Arbon?
Yes, so, thank you for being here. I certainly understand where Councilperson Perella is coming from, and then just to remind the council that this is this discussion is why we were talking about having a,
Design review board.
exactly, design review board, and then now the state essentially has, and now made a declaration of what that is gonna need to look like, right, for us to be able to increase our home rule over that. So, you know, looking at the application as it is now, I know that we've had conversations with Camila and Juan extensively about previous projects as well. And, you know, it does seem that they are diligent in their efforts to look at whether or not a design comports with our current code. And without having that board in place currently, I wouldn't see how we'd be able to decline this solely on this design. I would also say that with the advent of new materials, that's part of why we don't have these eaves any longer, that, you know, you have impact windows, so there's no need to create some sort of extra protection for those windows in the form of, you know, eaves. And then in addition, one of my questions about the design was regarding the roof, in terms of do you know what materials would be used?
Yes.
And just to understand how that will, I mean, looking at it, the first concern is water collection and things like this. So from everything from mosquitoes to structural degradation. So could you speak a little, because the roof is a silhouette, right? So the roof in a lot of ways defines a silhouette. And so in some regards, I think what Councilperson Perella is saying is that a silhouette does not fit in with the silhouettes of the other property. So just for the benefit of yourself and everybody listening, we have gotten to a point where we have a architectural guidebook, right? And in that established a certain number of different types of architectural style that exist currently in El Portal. And I know that a form of modern architecture, Camila might be able to correct me on the exact genre of this, but I know that some modern and contemporary aspects were certainly included in that consideration for the architectural guidebook. So having said all of that, I'll let you speak about the roof.
Yes, we did look at that, and no worries. And if you refer to page A4, we did do some sort of sloping on the roofs in the back, and it is a tile roof. It is not a flat roof, so it's not a completely modern design. It's actually the rest of the house and the interiors of the house, and from the parapet inwards, it's more like a mid-century home, and it conforms with, you know, all the guidelines and the regulations which we looked at. It is a sloped roof, and it is a tile roof, and you won't see it the facade has that parapet, but right after that, and from the sides of the house and the corners, you will see that it is a sloped roof. And to add to that, and, you know, a little bit for our benefit as well, we did try to include a lot of materiality in the project. We did the stone in the front, as you can see, which is certainly not a, you know, doesn't call to a modern design, and also the
Unless
wood.
it would be limestone. Well, anyway, we don't
Right.
have, we don't have
It will
quarries
most likely
nearby.
will be
Right.
limestone. And, you know, the wood on the garage, and we're trying to do the trims in black so that we can, you know, bring in some of the colors and fitting with the area. And we're also planting large trees because we also want to comply with the landscaping and try to bring in even more green to the area, especially to this particular site.
So with the landscaping then, certainly something that we are very serious about in the village would be native plants.
Yes, they
things
are.
like this.
And so are the shrubs.
And then, you know, I could make the stretch looking at this design to see, you know, a little bit of even like Spanish influence in this. And then with previous applications, and then this one included, do try to be cautious about looking at the renderings and making decisions completely off of the renderings. But it does sound like you guys put a considerable amount of effort into the renderings. So
We have been on it
So-
like for a few months.
so yes, so you know, that is certainly very helpful as well. The other, you know, so just to understand that certainly there is a concern with the gentrification of this neighborhood, and what's happening in real estate and the socioeconomic imbalance of who's moving in and who's moving out creates a very genuine concern because we have so many residents who've been here for multiple decades. And just as Councilperson Perella was saying, it's not just the architecture of the neighborhood, but the people itself. I never expected to find a neighborhood like this where neighbors knew each other, talked to each other. It's really a remarkable village that's here. And that a lot of that is certainly due directly to the people who've been here for multiple generations and help make it that way. So I've been here 7.5 years, and I was lucky to have found it. I did not come here and then create this village. It was definitely already a very charming place when my wife and I moved in 7.5 years ago. So in all of that, there's a very serious concern to see radical departures in architecture because of what that represents in terms of the socioeconomic imbalance that Miami-Dade County as a whole, and then now because of our elevation, El Portal is at the epicenter of. So in a nutshell, those are the concerns, and I don't know that I have anything else to say. I'll get off the microphone now. So.
Anyone else from the council have anything to say about item F2, I believe we're on?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may.
Oh, for sure. Go ahead.
And thank you very
Mr.
much.
Mayor.
Let me just say that, this weekend when I was going over the agenda packages, these properties did stand out to me. Let me just say for the record that the reason why we have approval with conditions is because this is not the first time, this is not the last time that we'll have to go over this. This is a committee meeting. Therefore, this will have to go through council to be passed permanently, if it would be. And therefore, between now and between council, when at a council meeting, a future council meeting, now, if this is passed if this is passed tonight, this committee meeting, it may very well be the July council meeting. I know that's what you're hoping, probably. It depends on the advertisement, because a lot of times it takes a couple weeks for the advertisement to go in. It depends on when the advertisement goes in or not. That being said, at that future council meeting, this will have to be brought up again. Therefore, the approval with conditions means that we approve it with these conditions, with coming to the council meeting, that no changes have taken place from this original application.
Correct.
That's why approval with conditions has to exist. Okay? That being said, definitely, you just have to, I agree with everybody here, you have to find that balance between an individual buying their property and being able to do what they want to do with their property, and, what the vision of El Portal is being, how it looks and how we want it to feel. We just have to balance those two, and you just have to vote your conscience with those things in mind. Madam Chair, what I would recommend, after everybody goes through and says what they want to say, is that you just you ask for a motion to approve and a second, and we'll see if it gets that, and then we can go from there, Madam Chair. And everybody just vote your conscience with everything in mind that I just mentioned. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Mayor, I completely agree with the sentiments. And I think that I get what Councilman Erbaum is saying about seeing the houses changing and knowing that there's something else happening there, especially with gentrification. I don't know that making it more difficult for this applicant or any applicant to bring to life whatever it is that their architect has come up with is going to be impactful for those issues, although I do think that is an issue and something we need to discuss and figure out an effective way to deal with that. But I don't necessarily think that that this is the venue to do that in. So with that being said, does...
Madam Chair, can I say one more
Sure.
thing, Madam Chair? Let me just say this also. If anybody from the committee feels like they're on the fence as far as I kind of feel like this or I kind of feel like this, remember, as I said before, this is not the last time this will come up. So you could be on, put it this way, if it fails tonight, then it fails permanently. If you're on the fence about something, you can pass it tonight through committee, and then if you, between now and the advertisement for the next couple of weeks, if you feel by the next couple of weeks, like, you know what, I'm absolutely against this, I'm going to vote against. Then at the council meeting, when it's the final time, you can vote against it then if you want it to not pass. So this is not the last time this will come before us. So keep that in mind also.
Okay. With that being said, do I have a motion to adopt staff's recommendation to approve this item with conditions?
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to approve with conditions.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
All right, we call the roll.
Member Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Member Vice Mayor Erbaum,
Yes.
Member Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, Vice Chair Councilperson Perella,
Yes.
and Chairperson Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We will be moving on to item number F3. Could I have the applicants at the podium, please? Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Could you state your, same. Could you please state your name and address for the record, and also we'll have to swear you in.
Yes, it's Juliet Mendoza, and the address is 256 Northeast 90th Street, El Portal.
Thank you very much.
Hello? It's Juliet Mendoza, and the address is 256 Northeast 90th Street, El Portal.
Thank you very much. Can you both please raise your right hand for me, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much. Camila, would you give the staff report on this item, please? Item F3.
Give a little. I just read the recommendation and then we can get into, okay, so certainly the staff recommendation. 1758, requirements and procedures for variances, B5E. The applicant does not show good cause for the construction of an accessory structure with a larger size than what is permitted in Zone 3 of El Portal. The grant of the variance as presented is not considered harmonious with the general intent and purpose of Section 24B Form-Based Code of the Village of El Portal Code of Ordinances. Therefore, denial is recommended for this variance request.
All right.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to say anything?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so can you hear me? All right, so I
We
am a
can.
first-time home owner. This is all new to me. I'm moving from Brickell to this area, so I'm in love with the neighborhood. However, I am not in love with the amount of vehicles that we have, okay? And I need a shed. We need a shed to put the vehicles in. All right, I wrote the letter of intent, and I've been in communication with Camilla over the shed, and she told me to write this letter of intent. It does comply with most of the regulations except the size of the shed. I have a picture of it that I can show the council, and what we plan on making in the backyard. It's not going to be visible, okay, so it won't be visible to anybody from the outside, and it's going to be lower than the home itself. So no one's gonna be able to see the shed. We're not gonna use it for an Airbnb, because I know that's a situation where people think that we're gonna use it for habitat. I mean, we're just gonna use it as a storage for vehicles. So I'm going to, if I can present to you guys the shed itself and the vehicles that we have that we need to be able to store. I do understand there is concerns. I do understand the concern that I've spoken with Camilla several times is that we're gonna use it, I don't know, I guess there's something that people rent out these rooms in the back. It's gonna be cement, there's not gonna be any electricity, there's not gonna be any water in there. It's just a storage. So I'm going to give it to you so you
Yeah,
guys know
that'd
exactly
be
what
great.
this looks like.
I'd love to see the shed.
Shed and attached is one of the vehicles.
Okay, while we wait, I'll just go ahead and open it up to public hearing really quick. Open up the public hearing. Does anyone have a comment about this item? If so, you can step up to the podium now. Comment? Comment? No? Okay. Hearing no comment, I'll go ahead and close public hearing and bring it back to the council so that we can discuss what we're looking at.
Items
Here you
like
go.
our jet ski.
Okay. Does anyone on the council have a question about this item?
Did she already speak?
She did.
Okay.
Do you have anything in addition to add? Yeah.
We've also asked the neighbors,
These are the toys
we've
they have?
also asked the neighbors, over how they felt about our shed. I've gone door to door and I asked them,
You really have to speak in the mic, please.
Better?
Uh-huh.
So I have spoken to the neighbors as well. We have spoken to them over us making this shed. We've tried to communicate with them. We have really nice neighbors, they're really good people. And they've all signed us a consent for the shed. So I'm gonna pass that around as well.
Those are in the thing. Those are
Yeah,
in the
I
thing.
reviewed those
Mhm.
as well. Camila, let me just ask you a question. Is the concern with approving this variance that it sets a precedence that would be unfavorable in the future? Is that part of it?
Correct,
Yes, Madam Chair, correct. That's exactly right. As the applicant stated, we'd like to reiterate that the lot is one of the larger ones in the village, and therefore this shed with its size, even if it's almost the size of the main building, it does comply with the lot coverage, the setbacks, and as said by the applicant, is the requirement for ancillary and accessory structures, which are interpreted under the same definition in the code, is that they be 25% of the main building or a maximum of 500 square feet, which this structure is way over, and it might set a precedent for other residents in the village who would request a structure that is equal in size to the main building. However, as the applicant stated, the purpose for this structure is not as a living area. And, but our recommendation is strictly based on the size of the structure, which exceeds the maximum allowed.
And we cannot fit the vehicles in the size allotted. So that's the big concern here. And the amount of money that we're paying in storage, it's just unreal. So, I mean, it's really difficult because I'm in love with the neighborhood. I skate in the neighborhood. I love it. And we're really trying to build this shed so that we can have everything in one place. And we're trying to do it, with you guys, but we're getting a lot of, hesitation, a lot of, hey, we're not gonna be able to get this cleared for you, so that's why we're here.
Any questions from the council?
Yes.
Councilmember Lightfoot Ward?
I don't have a question as much as I have a statement. What's your name again?
Juliet.
You, Juliet. I understand what you're trying to do. It's just too big. I feel bad for you because it says you already bought. We understand the mishaps. However, the shed has been purchased for the sum of $33,500.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
the expected delivery was May 21, 2021.
Yes, ma'am. And it was a bigger shed, and I don't want to interject. It was a bigger shed, and we were told, no, so we're trying to reduce it, and it was reduced a couple 100 feet smaller to comply me and Freddie, we've been like trying to figure out what's the smallest we can do, because I understand the concern. You don't want this huge thing in the back of a neighborhood. I understand, but we're trying to fit the vehicles in there as well, along with our jet skis and everything else that we have. So the minimum that we could possibly do is put it at 1,500.
Again, your cost is your cost, but the thing is too big. And we don't want to set a precedence. Too many times before, even Mayor Nicholson got on, that people just did anything they would, and then they flipped the plane. I'm not saying you're gonna flip anything, I'm just saying it's too big. And the fact that you have so many vehicles, it's just too big. And while we live near and closest to storage, right here in the village, just across the expressway, it's just too big.
I know.
And we usually go,
We also sit on a double lot.
Our lot is the biggest, one of the biggest lots in.
we have that in the documentation.
Yeah.
It still doesn't take the place of the shed's too big per our development plan. It's too big.
So 500 square feet is just not doable. And that's another thing. So if and we're here, you know, perhaps we could come up with a number that we can speak to the manufacturer about, because 500 square feet is just not going to fit the vehicles. So if it's not 1820 and it's not 500, we've got to be able to come to some steady median to have some type of storage in our own backyard.
Who is Mrs. Zabala? That's you. She's telling you specifically, this is not our first rodeo. You won't be the first person who wanted to do something not in compliance. And again, I know I've said more than I need to say, but it is too big. Before I leave, I like to make something very clear, that it's not that we wouldn't if we could. We just don't want that. You make me think about the lady that does the Health Channel. Do you see the Health Channel ever? You never see that? She's so animated. And you made me think about, I said, my goodness, why is the Health? And then I looked at your eyes, it's not her. But you made me think about that. I just thought to let you know, we are human up here, but the shed is just completely out of consideration.
Any other comments from the council? Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. You know, it's difficult because we understand what you're saying and we understand what you're going through. But, you know, we do have our form-based code for a reason. You know, we do have the way that the things that we allow and don't allow. And we have our staff that really works hard to go through everything. And if they can approve something, they will. As you saw, they can approve with conditions, even though that might not be a direct approval. So, and we'll, everybody up here will tell you that we rarely get them having a straight out denial. So for them to recommend denial, it speaks volumes to us. And tells us this is a direction that we just don't want to go in when it comes to that. Let me ask you this though, just for your cars. Why do you feel like you need a solid structure for your cars? Because I know other individuals who do have classic cars and expensive, you know, Chevy Donks and things like that. And you know, there's so many different ways that you can protect the car. They even have like the car bubble, to where, you know, you can put your car in an entire bubble material, and it's like it's insulated from all the outside elements.
And where do you put that?
I'm saying you guys can put your cars in your backyard, you know.
One car that's $500,000. You really want to sit it outside on a vacuum? It's not going to work. The sun is going to deteriorate.
So it's the values of the vehicle.
Then I let those cars just sit outside in the element. It's just not going to work.
And doesn't, I'm sorry, I have to have since you point that out, doesn't the shed, you know, it actually
No, it would
enclose a lot of heat?
Yes, but it would still protect it from the elements, of course, right? Like you're going to be protected from the sun and the rain and the wear and tear, specifically the rain, where it's rains a lot, and so we can't bubble wrap the car, even though we would love to, and keep it out there. Believe me, I have tried to find any other way to see what we could do with the cars. I don't want the cars in the front of the house, okay? I don't like it. And I don't want the stuff in my house either, right? The jet skis and stuff. I'd like to be able to live in my home and he have his stuff in his shed.
I completely feel your struggle. But what I do want to say is that the denial is not necessarily because of you. I do 100% believe that you want to just store cars and store jet skis and just have like a zen place. Like, I completely get that. The concern is that if we allow this variance, then the precedent then opens the door, maybe for some people whose intentions aren't necessarily so transparent. Because I really like you guys. I want you to store your cars. Your cars are beautiful. I get wanting to protect that. So I just wanted to say that it's not necessarily this case, and we're like, no, we don't believe what you're saying. It's what this might open us up to. And I think Councilman Erbaum has a comment as well.
Yes, so, thank you for being here tonight. Yeah, for me, looking at the 500 square foot, allowable within the code without any variance required, up to the 1820, we're talking 300%. So, so not to parrot or echo too much, but that gap is insurmountable, most likely for us tonight, certainly. My lot's only 50 feet wide, and we wouldn't even be able to put in a garage because of the 5-foot recess. But
We're at 100.
right, yeah. So right, but what I'm saying is that certainly would like to. In the future, I'll put in some plans for some type of a shade, for example, right? That's the option that I'll be left with. So I want to say that I empathize with the need. So I truly do, and I understand that it is storage. It's not just a garage. There will be many things. It sounds like that you have a need to secure, and that this fits the bill. Again, just what the mayor was saying in terms of the diligence that Pluserbia goes through to bring these recommendations to us. Just as the mayor did say, a denial really does speak volumes, and it's a wide gap, the 500 to the 1820. That's really the issue. It doesn't sound to
Let
me.
me ask you a question.
Yes.
If I was attached it to the house, like it states,
So if that square footage would then, I'm not sure what the square footage of your home is, but
then I could bump up to 5,000 square feet.
It's 1920, the house.
if you would be adding 50% or greater of square footage to your house, then it would also be a new construction application, like as if you were raising the entire property and rebuilding. That's the application you would fill out, would be a new construction application. Depending on how much square footage that truly added to the overall floor plan. And that might be an option. Something like that might be an option.
Now, does it necessarily have to be attached, or let's say I could still put the shed in the same location and just build an awning to attach them to each other?
Would you have an answer to that, Camila?
Yes,
Technically,
thank you.
The shed will be still, if I build, I'm gonna build in the same location.
Right. I would like to speak to, thank you for bringing up the addition option. It can be, but then you would be subject to a more strict, more strict review in terms of the character of the building and how consistent it is with the existing, and it would need to be attached with a closed structure to the existing house. However, you wouldn't be subject to the size limitation. It would only have to comply with the lot coverage.
That's what, I mean, it
And
kind
then
of
you
makes, if you understand, if you guys will allow me to do 5,000 square feet attached, why not just grant me the 1,800?
Because accessory structures, they do not need to comply with density requirements, and therefore that's where the issue comes in with the president. Anyone who builds an accessory structure or ancillary unit, they can use it.
It's a precedent.
Yes, and they can use it. They can use it as many units as they want, because that is the regulation keeping it from having a second house in a lot, essentially.
So it's just a different avenue that we have to.
The
Right.
density requirements would limit a house from having more units.
Also, we got into this because we also sent her an email prior to us starting getting into this, that I guess it was a misunderstanding amongst us. But the reason I invested this money was because she clearly emailed us back saying that it was okay. It was a misunderstanding between us, but now this thing's been on hold for 4 months, but I'm paying $250 a day storage at the manufacturer, waiting for this day to come. So it's not even the $33,000 for the building, it's the $250 a day that I've been paying for storage for the last 4 months. Like,
Were you saying it was a misunderstanding between who?
me and Camila.
You and Camila. And what was the misunderstanding, about size, or the size of the accessory, or?
The sequence of events in terms of this misunderstanding is the applicant sent a document or some documents to the building department, who asked us separately to please look into this application for the shed. And when we had direct communication with the applicant, we only received a survey, to which we replied the location of the shed is allowed and the location where the existing shed is showing now, but we did not respond to the size because we had not seen it. And so the applicant rightly thought that we said, yes, of course, what you provided to the building department would be allowed. However, we were only responding to the location of the shed in the rear of the property.
But when I sent the attachment, I sent everything.
This is definite,
But I sent the attachment completed, she didn't see it, it's another story.
I can definitely understand how that would be frustrating, 100%. And I read that in the packet. And I apologize for that, because I know that this has, just kind of built upon itself and been an undesirable situation. But with that being said, I think everyone's concern kind of remains the same. And I don't know if we're in a position now that someone wants to make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation on this item.
So move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Madam Chair.
Can we call the roll?
Member Mayor Nickerson.
No.
Member Vice Mayor Urban.
No.
Member Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
What are we voting for here? We're voting the
Well,
recommendation?
To adopt the
We're
recommendation.
voting to
of
adopt
staff.
staff's recommendation on the
Okay.
denial.
The staff recommendation is for denial.
Yes.
I am voting yes for the staff recommendation for denial. I don't know what they just voted for.
Should I restate the vote? Let me restate it.
Restate the motion, because usually what we vote on is the actual property.
No.
And if we're going to put the property through, that's what the vote usually is.
Okay, so let's restate that motion, so it's absolutely clear
Clear.
that we are voting for the application for, what is the address?
The recommendation is what we're
Two
voting.
56 Northeast 90th Street.
The recommendation is for, let's be clear, because I don't want to do this again. I don't.
The
I don't
mayor
wanna
just
put things-
stated that we're not gonna vote on staff's recommendation, we're just gonna vote on the application, correct, Mayor?
You're voting on the approval of the application. The staff recommendation is the staff recommendation, but the agenda line item is the address of the property. So we're voting on the agenda line item, which is the property. We take the staff recommendation under consideration, and we make our decision on whether we're going to approve that
The
property,
structure or not.
or that structure or not.
There you go, we can do it like that. I will say, does anybody want to make a motion for either the approval or denial of the variance for large shed as it relates to the property located at 256 Northeast 90th Street?
I move denial per the staff recommendation for this item.
Okay.
I'm moving denial
Okay,
as
so
recommended by the staff.
I'll second that
Not
motion.
hard.
second that motion.
Second
Okay,
that
let's
motion,
call-
Madam Chair.
Okay.
Let's call the roll.
Okay. Member Member Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Member Vice Mayor Urban.
Yes.
Member Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Yes.
Vice Chair Councilperson Perella.
Yes.
And Chairperson Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Motion of
Denial.
denial passes.
Yeah, for denial.
Alrighty, so let's move on to item number F4, 8555 Northeast Second Avenue, sign approval. Can I have the applicant to the podium, please?
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Could you state your name and address for the record, and also you guys will need to be signed in?
My name is Mario Garcia, and the address is 8555 Northeast 2nd Avenue.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Oh, sorry.
Delighted Villalobos for the same address.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Will you please raise your right hand, please? Raise your right hands. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Camila, would you give us the staff report on this item?
Yes, certainly. There we go. Thank you. This application, the applicant is requesting to install a sign at the property located at 8555 Northeast 2nd Avenue. Pursuant to section 2421, signs, permitted signs in the RO district, which is currently zone 4. The applicant shows good cause for the installation of replacement sign for the business located at the aforementioned address. Approval is recommended for the zoning approval request for the sign.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything they'd like to say? Would you guys like to say anything?
First of all, I don't know too many things about this, so I don't understand like everything. But
Yeah, I don't think you, yeah.
no, I think we just
We don't know that much about measurements.
exactly.
So we just wanted to have to replace the information that was before. We changed the name because we're dentists, we're a new business there. So we just changed the name and that's
And the letters that
Awesome.
look a little bigger, right? Is that correct?
The sign is about the same size, though.
Yeah.
Sign is about
Yeah,
the same size, just the
same size,
lettering
just
that's a
more
little
modern
bigger.
lettering.
It's set back, so it needs a little,
Yeah,
yeah.
completely. I get that.
Madam Chair, if I may
For sure,
make a
Camila.
comment about, so the signs, the sign ordinance hasn't been updated in quite some time. And the former zoning district names are considered with the sign regulations. And this is why the signage requirements in the RO district, which was formerly residential office district, require signs that can't exceed 10 square feet in size.
That's what it
And they
says.
were for offices. Now, the initial request was to replace the sign with the exact same material and size, only replacing the information because of course it's a new business. And those are considered repairs, and even for driveways and fences, when they're repairs with the exact same material and size, we usually approve without further, without council approval. But the sign did change the material, and they're using plexiglass, but the size remained the same. And so this is why we're presenting, the applicant is presenting it here before you for your consideration of the design and how it looks in the business. But as in terms of zoning, we believe that it's not detrimental to the area, or does not stand out in a way that does not fit in with the businesses, with the adjacent businesses or the other businesses currently in Northeast Second Avenue. As more, as the council might consider revision of these sign requirements for the future as more businesses come in, but these are the requirements that are there now.
Okay, let me just go ahead and open this for public hearing really quickly. Is there anyone who wants to say something about this item? I don't see anyone, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to the council. Does anyone have a comment about the sign? Councilman Urbom?
Oh, thank you for being here. How you doing? So this will be a single piece of plexiglass printed, essentially. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we asked for. I mean, the letters are the same size,
Okay.
just that we wanted, if we had it clear, just to put the letters on it. That's the only thing that we have changed.
Okay. The only thing I might say would be a comment to say perhaps maybe some sort of solid background behind the words and the numbers, so you have a little better contrast. Because the blends into the brick a little bit. That's,
That was actually the plan.
okay, so,
But I don't think you guys,
They told me that it was not allowed,
it was not allowed.
so.
We couldn't approve it by right.
That's
even though-
right.
So it's not necessarily just the area, that's my question, okay, so, all right, so,
We,
so it's not just the area that we're talking about, it is
the material of
Okay.
the
So
sign.
the problem was the material, because I never understood, because I
So-
thought that was
The original one that you had submitted with the, right, that we could not approve by right, and we understood that there was an urgency, and we said, you know, the only way we can approve it by right is if it's a repair or a replacement of the exact same material and size with different information, which is what you agreed to do, and you submitted the application. And then we were advised by the building official that there was a different material used, so that you would have to get approval from the council, and that's why we're here. But, I mean,
do we have the ability to,
you can, if you would, I mean,
like in the future, just to know, if in the future we can, I don't know if there's
Oh,
any
yes.
problem.
so
you
the
can
rea-
submit a new application.
well,
for the sign.
the reason I bring it up is because it sounds like this is something they've already thought about in terms of visibility, right?
Right.
And then for me, looking at what the sign that was there before, and then the proposal of what will be there now, certainly an improvement, over the outdated sign that was there before, right? But because of the way it blends into the brick, I think we would be well-served to allow them to put a background field on it, because I feel like that would actually elevate the aesthetic of it, whereas without that, it might be something that just like the previous sign that the sign that was originally there, seemed to really blend into the building a little bit, which does not necessarily elevate the aesthetic. So,
Yes.
I certainly, it sounds like you've given this some thought in terms of your desire to have some
for
sort
sure.
of contrast. Even maybe it's not the entire
No.
piece of plexiglass, but behind, like striped behind each, the printed
In the
letters
beginning,
there,
we
right?
want to have like a little logo, our logo,
Right,
that will practice. And I want to also say something else. This is a practice that is being closed for probably 5 years.
okay,
And this is where we have like, welcome to El Portal.
right,
It's right in front of my office. So, and this used to be with a lot of garbage, a lot of,
yeah,
everything was a mess. Now everything is clean. We keep everything clean. We had so actually what we want is to keep it nice and clean for everybody to see that, it's a new office and it's good looking. So in the future, if it's just.
May I add something? There was, and you did submit a different sign with your logo at the beginning. I would like to reiterate that we were solely explaining that we couldn't approve it by right. It had to be approved by the council. We weren't denying it because of the sign itself.
Exactly, no, I understand.
So if you would like to come forward to the council with that design, you may, actually, I'm not sure if they would have to submit a new application or change this sign.
Can we just move with this item, please? Because I still have some comments, and we're going off into another arena. And I think we need to stick with what we have in front of us right now. I have some
Councilwoman
questions.
Life Award, would you like to make your comments
I
on the
do.
item? Go ahead.
If my colleagues is finished.
I think he's done.
I like your youthfulness. I like your energy. I feel it. I really do.
Thank you.
But this was one of those properties that got a pass years ago for its signage. This village wasn't always the way it is today. So this thing gave me a little problems. 25 years ago, I was on this council.
Got it.
This property gave me a little bit of problems. But I'm not even considering that. I went out there the other day and wanted to be objective, okay? I have 3 points to point out. And remember, I did say on the record that this one got a pass for signage years ago. Point 1, the village records on this property should show the current signage on the property being inconsistent with this village code, as its square feet measures 48 by 70 inches. The current signage. Thus, this committee needs to be informed if that signage was appropriately approved. I don't think you'll find it. As it is not, mentioned in the materials provided to this committee at this time. Also, and should the current sign be absent documentation, it is to be cited accordingly and directed toward removal, replacement to the current code. That's the first point. The second point, as noted in this committee's documentation, thank you very much. Yes, thank you. The village code stipulates a not to exceed 10 square feet in size. Therefore, please inform on recommending approval for a sign, second sign measuring 23 square feet, when knowing the first sign is out of compliance, and this request exceeding the village's code by 13 square feet. My third point, under the Zoning and Land Development Code, Chapter 24, Article 3, Section 2421, Signs B1 stipulates one on-premise wall sign per use with an area of not more than 3 square feet for each 1 linear foot in the building frontage. All of this, I'm sure, is very well documented. So I have a problem here. I don't have a problem with you all. I have a problem with the first one's not even right. The ones that's currently there is not right. And your plexiglass affirmed to me you want something similar. It's just going to be 8 inches shorter than what's there. And yet that's not in code. So I'm recommending this so we can stop the conversation and let's deal with the factual information. Should the item return to this committee, which shows you my hope, I'm asking the village planner to pursue research of this property's previous signage permits. That's A. B, where the current signage is out of compliance, inform the code enforcement officer accordingly for action. And C, inform the applicant of this committee's concerns and how to correct same. Don't just leave them out there. Give them something to work with, because this is youthfulness. I like this. They just had no idea about the history, obviously. You couldn't. You probably weren't even born. So I don't want to not help you do what you're trying to do. I want to fix what I think got a pass 25 years ago.
To be honest, I never knew that anything like that.
I understand.
So what I thought is like, okay, so if I replace something that is like the same, I'm supposed to be fine.
That's why
So-
my heart goes out. I know, looking at you and realize, oh my gosh, this is a young group. They had no idea what you were really dealing with. So I'm not against it. I just want it to be done right this time. Both signs done right. You said it's your property?
It's not my property.
Okay, whoever property it is, I want it to be done right. This is one of those that got a pass.
And they did it that way because that's what we explained to them, a grandfathering situation of sorts. But you're right, we can research into the previous permits and
Mhm.
and see why they exceeded the.
And I
the
did the
maximum.
research on the grandfather thing too.
Okay. Councilmember Erbaum, I think you have a comment?
Yes. What are the dimensions of the proposed new sign?
I think it's
Right here.
48 by 70. I see it there, 48 by 70.
70.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So, assuming that they were able to bring that to either a square sign of 60, or, whatever it might be, 10-foot square. Okay. I certainly understand.
I hope we don't go toward the grandfather. Please don't go toward the grandfather clause, because,
No, I just actually was
okay,
looking for a little
because
extra guidance from.
that thing was, okay, you'll do the research, so
Well,
as necessary to help these young
so,
people, that's what I want to do. But I don't want to do it so somebody else comes along and say, you let them do it.
so I just want to clarify, the only issue we're really discussing here is, does the size of the sign comport with the current code? And we're saying that this application does not, because it's 48 by 70, right? Inches by 70.
And the one that's up there now is out of compliance too. So while you're doing it, let's do it all right.
Excuse me. I really appreciate your advice, and we want to do things right. That's why we didn't want to add the logo on it, because at first, we were advised not to do logo, just, still on the dimensions. I want to clarify, the size of the big square is clear, it's crystal clear. It doesn't see like it's not white or it's not green. It's just holding the letters, the size of the letters. It's like 3 different line of letters, and the crystal is just holding the letters because we didn't want to cut them in pieces. But it's crystal clear. No one sees that. I mean, the size of the crystal is clear. Like, it's seamless. You don't see it. It's just
But
a
it's still
letter.
a sign. It's just holding on to what is not in compliance.
So
It's
co-
still a sign.
So Camila, the question for me is fundamentally, the only issue with the sign is the size. The only thing that makes it non-compliant is the size.
Well, because this was replacing the original sign, that we will do more research on. Yes, it's not complying with the signage, but for other applications where an applicant comes in and replaces an existing sign, or driveway, for example, if I can give a concrete example of driveways, when prior to the adoption of the code, there were 16-foot driveways that were allowed. So when a resident comes in and repairs it with the exact same material and within the exact same size, it is approved despite of the fact that it's not the required 12 feet now. However, when they change materials or, well, in this case, materials, then it's considered a new application. So
It has to come into compliance with the current restrictions.
it should come
You're
to
saying.
compliance with, yes.
So this is the situation that we're dealing with now.
I don't
Excuse
understand
me.
why you're saying that we changed the material. Because actually, I'm using the same clear
Fiberglass.
fiberglass that is.
I mean,
that
it's
was
like
before.
acrylic. It was
It's
the same,
exactly
like
the
it
same.
was like 20 years old. And also, we were not aware of this. We thought that we were ready to go because we already spent $600 in that sign, and we paid $500 for the permit. So we thought that we were doing the right thing. So,
I came here
at
and
this
also
point,
asked
Yeah.
if everything was fine, and they told me, yeah, everything is fine, so you don't need to come anymore, everything is closed, everything is fine.
Okay. One question for you. Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward, what exactly is your request? Can you restate that for me? You want this item to be tabled until the next Planning and Zoning Committee meeting? So that Camila,
That's easy. That's easy.
so that Camila can do what?
So that they can make sure the first sign is in order before we put up a second sign. Because that's where the problem is.
Oh.
That is where the problem is.
we don't even have the first sign now.
No,
I
exactly.
mean,
We did what
exactly.
they allowed
It-
us to do.
But the first sign was allowed, right, Camila? Let me
That
back this up.
was-
The first sign was allowed.
The
And
first-
if they are essentially replacing letters on the exact same sign, then it should be something that is allowed
is what we
because it
have-
was
Right, because,
existing before.
right.
Am I missing something on
Yeah, you're
on
missing
this?
something. They're two different signs. And I'm saying before you put up a second sign, fix the first one. Because the first one's out of compliance.
How do you
but
fix
can
the
I
first
fix
one?
one that it was not belong to
Oh,
me?
one second. How exactly do we fix the first one, Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward?
My first point.
It's already gone, but
Over
it,
the measurements.
right, measurements.
We would
yeah.
have to ensure that it was approved and,
And the
Be-
way it was approved, it got a pass.
okay, but that means that it was approved outside of
Yeah,
the
but
requirements.
it wasn't to the code. It just,
Right.
this was a mess 25 years ago. This was a mess. Some things got.
So when we say it got a pass, was it approved by the body 25 years ago, or was it just the owner put up the sign and it just left it there?
The record should show how I just tried to make it not happen, and it happened anyway, and everybody knew it was just getting a pass.
Okay, so are we tabling this item?
Yes,
It's
because
just
that's the
like
same-
when you buy a house and it's all completely done without permits, and then you need something, and
No,
then the
I
inspector.
completely
So it's
get
pretty
that. I
much
just
like
want to make sure
the
that it
same
wasn't
case,
with
yeah.
permits and we're not just kind of
Then-
delaying them on this
Can we
issue.
explain to them what table is? Because if we vote this, we can just table it.
No, that's what I'm
I
getting
like-
at.
I like the
But if
mayor's-
we table it, we are not going to be hearing this item until when?
September.
September.
can they do a temporary sign at least for something for their business?
The
They
sign
have
is
a sign.
already
It's already,
It's there.
oh,
It's already there.
Oh, the sign is already
That
posted.
one that I'm talking about is already there.
Hmm.
That's not the issue.
That's the one that
here.
you guys have.
right, I thought it
So
was
we
just
got
a,
the
Well-
notification that we have to come today, and we didn't even know
don't
what
even
was
know that I was-
for.
We're not
Like,
in any hurry
those-
to rush this. There's no reason to rush.
Okay,
well,
so
but
let's,
I'm sorry, but whose fault was that? That they allow them to put the sign, they did it on their own and they apply afterward?
No, we approved it based on the replacement of the existing sign, because they proposed the same size and material,
Councilman
just
Erba.
changing the information.
Yeah,
Councilman Erba has a question, and then we can wrap this up.
Yeah, so just to clarify, what I believe the purpose of, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Lightfoot Ward, but the reason for tabling is to give Pluserbia a chance to.
That's correct.
Or a building department and code enforcement, so.
To figure out what
our office and then
happened.
Pluserbia to find out if.
Definitely.
If it could be discovered, if there was a permit ever pulled for that, or otherwise approved.
Perfect. So do we have a motion to table this item until the next Planning and Zoning Committee meeting so that Camila has
Do you
that
have,
time to do that?
I'm sorry, she had something to say?
Well, I was gonna say, we may also recommend, because they can come back with a different application, which would be a variance, which would be requesting a sign outside of the 10 square foot requirement. That could be one option. The second is, yes, we go back, we ensure that it was what the situation was with the permit previously. I would like to make it clear, because the sign was there and it was approved previously, like I said, when it's proposed with the same material and size, it's considered repairment, and that's why it was approved.
Okay, may I
Okay, I
say
think-
something?
Go
Chair?
ahead, Councilman Farrell.
Yes. I mean, I have no problem with the sign. It looks way better than the one from the medical office. That looks, and to me, it looks almost the same size, if it's not the same size. The one that's standing up and two, post, that looks horrendous. I think it's cool. So I have no problem with the sign. So I don't know, you guys.
Oh, okay. So, the question is whether or not we want to, I guess the question is whether or not we're gonna just move forward with the item.
All right,
Does someone wanna make a motion to
I'll make a
move forward
motion to approve
with approving this
the
item?
sign.
Madam Chair, if I
Go
may.
ahead, Mr. Mayor.
When you asked for the motion to table, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward said
Thank
move.
you.
So
Is
we,
there a second?
so what we have to do, Madam Chair, is that motion, we have to get a second for that motion. If there's no second, then the motion fails. If there's a second, then we can go to the roll call for table. If the roll call passes, then it's table. If the roll call fails, then you can ask if there's any other motions, and at that point, if somebody wants to make a different motion, they can. So you can ask now for the second of the table in motion. If nobody gives a second for the table in motion, then the table in motion will fail.
I have one
That's why I
final-
like you on my team.
I have
Can
one
I have
final-
I'm
a
already-
second
I'm
for
already-
that motion, please?
I have one final question.
Sure, Councilman Erba. Go ahead, your
No,
question?
it's been seconded.
Oh, you want to second it?
No, I'm saying it's been seconded, so.
Who seconded it?
She made the motion.
She made the motion, there was no
She
second.
needs a second.
Okay, my final question is, if we table this,
Oh, I
we
couldn't
table
call
this-
the motion because I'm the
by
chair. I
tabling
didn't
this,
call
do
the
they have an
motion.
opportunity to bring any alterations to this application the next time we meet?
I believe so.
Okay,
They can, yes.
okay,
Can I say something?
yes. Sorry.
Yes.
So because there was a sign before, right?
Uh-huh.
So I asked for a permit, they give me the approval for the permit. So, and what she was saying is like, if there is a sign that was before, right? And I actually followed the same guidelines that we had before, that it was supposed to be approved, right? So it's been there for 25 years, probably more. So this has been a clinic for 60 years, and I asked the owner, and the owner told me that, oh, but before it was a sign before. So,
I understand. I definitely
And
understand.
just, I'm sorry if I may, just to give a little story, when I bought my house, I was building my house, renovating my house, I came and got a permit to redo the whole roof. They gave me a permit at the middle of everything going. they realized that the material I was using for my roof wasn't in code, it wasn't allowed. So I have to wait like 3 months and come back and, you know, redo everything and go through the whole process to then have it included in the code and then use the roof. So, you know, the fact that they issue the permit and whatever, it could always be, you know, a misunderstanding or, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean like it is okay to do it. You know, it's.
Okay, let me, 1 second. We're gonna go through this just to make sure procedurally we're correct. We had a motion to table this item up until the September Public Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, so can we have the roll call on that one?
Okay. Member Mayor Nickerson.
No.
Member Vice Mayor Urbom.
Yes.
Okay. Member Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Vice Chairperson Councilperson Perella. No. And Chairperson Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 3-2 to table the item.
Tabled until September.
To table the item until September.
And then Camila will get us that information.
Yes.
Awesome.
So what that means?
That means that you guys will be back in September. We'll do some more information as far as what's going on with the former sign, and we can give you some better guidance. So you'll be back in September, and we'll hear the same item, or you'll discuss a variance with Camila, correct?
So the sign is still there, so.
Yeah, the sign's up. The sign's up.
I'm gonna go and put a.
No, the sign is up. The sign is up, and I wish you guys a lot of success with the dental practice.
Thanks.
Alrighty.
Thank you. Good evening.
Okay, so that was that. Now we're on to good and welfare. Was there anyone from the audience that wants to come up and say something? Now's the time. Hearing none, closing good and welfare and on to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Do I have a second? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, no opposed. All righty.